Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on From Strategy to Implementation, Governance as the Key Factor in Hydrogen Development. I'm thrilled to see such a diverse group of participants joining us from across the world today. Here in Colombo, Sri Lanka, it's 1:30 p.m. We are about to explore the role of governance in transforming hydrogen strategies into tangible, impactful outcomes. Before we begin, allow me to introduce myself and our esteemed speaker for today. My name is Prasadini Wickramasinghe, and I'm the coordinator for the GreenStat Center of Excellence for Hydrogen. Today's session features Florian Kohlhammer, an accomplished consultant with the GIS and the advisor to the Hydrogen Coordination Office in Germany. Florian has extensive experience in energy transition, hydrogen strategies, and agile project management. His global expertise spans countries like Germany, Chile, Sweden, and the USA. We are privileged to have Florian share insights into Germany's national hydrogen strategy and the governance frameworks driving its success. This webinar is made possible through collaboration between GreenStat, SLTC Research University, and the GIS, the German Development Agency. As part of our partnership with SLTC Research University, we are thrilled to support their knowledge sharing initiative, the Sparkwave project, as a knowledge partner. A special thank goes to the National Science Foundation for promoting this event through their STMIS platform. Before we begin, here are a few quick reminders about the webinar recording. Don't worry, if you miss anything, we will share the recording with you in coming weeks. And also, feel free to send in your questions anytime using the Q&A box. Questions will be answered during the Q&A session. And we have a special opportunity for this webinar. During the Q&A session, you're welcome to raise your hand to ask questions directly. We encourage active participation. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's session. Florian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Prasadini, and good morning, everybody from Berlin. I'm happy to be here with you today. And thank you very much also for the invitation. I would like to share some insights on the German strategy and also give a little, let's say, zoom out a little bit also from the German strategy itself. This is my first point. I would like to, let's say, contextualize a little bit where we stand and with the hydrogen strategies in comparison to other transformation processes globally. Then there definitely will be the zoom in, and I think that's the most interesting part for you today, to learn more about the governance structure of the hydrogen strategy from Germany. And I also was asked to share some personal lessons learned, and it's going to be the third part of the presentation. I would like to start with this chart that I found in the global risk report from the World Economic Forum, which took just place in last week in Switzerland. And if you take a look in the risks that the global community basically sees for the next 10 years, you see a lot of things popping up here caused by climate change. And I mean, like, those are times now where some think that there's a solution on the national level to everything. Personally, I think those challenges that we see here and those risks to the global economy, to the global wealth of people, can only be solved in a sustainable manner when we work together as a global community. And that means as a community, as a society, and also include every level of stakeholders. And that's why, for me, like, this is very important for my presentation today. I would like to basically give a broad definition of the word stakeholder. That means that we include everybody basically in the process, and that helps us on the long run to be more sustainable in the implementation due to our higher level of acceptance, Plus, also it makes probably things a little bit slower at the beginning, but on the long run we can be actually faster and have a sustainable way of implementation of processes of global transformation processes. How to deal with those stakeholders and how to engage them basically in this transformation process. There is a model that was developed by a German institute in Potsdam. Potsdam is a city next to Berlin, and they have developed this kind of 4-step model how to engage with stakeholders. I won't go into detail, no worries. Just I want to highlight certain aspects that are very important for me, and that's going to be also the base for my presentation today. So they say in the first step, basically, if you want to engage with stakeholders, you need to understand the context, you need to create resonance, and you have to build a container of stakeholders that are engaged, that want to change with you together or lead the transformation together with you. That's the very first step. Second, you build and formalize. What does that mean? Is basically you have to clarify the common goals between those stakeholders. That's very key. That's very key to have a common goal to work towards together, and then also plan together how to get there. And this is the second phase. And the third phase, and for me, actually the last one, is to create results, measure those results, and celebrate the success. But creating results means also that you create a certain transparency over the progress that you have made throughout the time. And those 3 steps we're going to take a look at now. If we come back now to the main topic of the presentation, hydrogen strategies. Not only the German one, but for me, all hydrogen strategies should contain or should include the following questions. They need to be answered in those strategies, which means the first question is, who needs to be engaged? This is from step 1. From step 2 is, what are the common goals to be achieved in the hydrogen sector? And the third question is, how is the progress measured in terms of how is process basically being made transparent to the crowd, to the people, to the stakeholders of this process? So now making a zoom in into the German strategy and see how it's dealt there. This is a screenshot basically taken from the hydrogen strategy of Germany from 2020. No worries, I won't go into details here. Just want also to highlight the 3 main bodies that basically consist or build the base for the governance. And those are here marked in yellow. The State Secretary Committee on Hydrogen, which basically represents the German government, the federal government. Then we have a second body, which is the Hydrogen Council. This is a stakeholder body that consists of people outside the political system, but giving advice to the political system. And the third one, this is also where I work in. This is the Hydrogen Coordination Office. We work towards both other bodies. So we support the Hydrogen Council in their role advising the government, but we also have a very close connection to the government. We're going to see that on one of the further slides. So now I want to answer those questions that I've raised in the beginning of the presentation. Who needs to be engaged? And the first one, and I highlighted that on the slide before, is the federal government. And within the federal government, we see that we have some sort of, let's say, division between the so-called inner circle. I mean, this is a translation from Germany, so it won't actually fit perfectly in English, I know. But I think it gets the point gets across that we have 5 ministries here that take the main responsibility for the content and the implementation of the strategy documents. You might have learned already that Germany had a strategy from 2020 here. This is the original document. And then there was an updated version of the strategy in 2023. So for both those 2 strategy documents, those 5 ministries take the main responsibility. But as we know, hydrogen has a broad impact on our lives, right? It can affect so many things in our lives and the energy transition. So there need to be other ministries also be involved, and they get a voice, they get heard in the inner governmental negotiations. And so those ministries, they don't take the main responsibility for the implementation, but they have a voice, they have an opinion about how things should work out in their way, from their perspective as well. So we engage also with other ministries within the German federal government. This is now was the political system by itself. Now we're coming to the level of engagement between political system and let's say the society, right? And for this, the German government or the German hydrogen strategy basically foresees an exchange with the Hydrogen Council. The Hydrogen Council is consists basically of 26 members. They are all working pro bono, and they are experts coming from the industry, from the academia, and from the NGOs. So those together, basically, those experts coming together, and they advise the federal government through studies and position papers and also information papers. What does that mean? So there is a certain aspect of, let's say, a policy document or a policy instrument that is about to be implemented or the German government wants to implement. So the Hydrogen Council gathers together and they make up their mind on the certain topic. And then they publish a paper, position paper normally, where they say like, okay, this is our position on this behalf, on this issue that the German government is about to be implementing. And how does the council work? They're not coming together every time, all 26 members. That would take too much time and wouldn't be effective. So they organize themselves in working groups. There are 4 working groups. Actually, one working group has, let's say, 2 sub-working groups because it's so big. And so we have 4 + 2 working groups. And in those working groups, they prepare those position papers. And in the plenary meeting that take place 4 or 5 times a year, all those papers that have been prepared in the working groups are called and up, and then they in the plenary meeting they can basically decide whether they want to pass basically the position paper or not. But by this, every stakeholder group, you could say, because they're representing the industry, the academia, and the NGOs, everybody gets a vote on how things are dealt in Germany with the hydrogen strategy. And I think this is a very important aspect to bring in the opinions from outside the political system, inside the political system, inside the policy cycle. For you, in total, we have now more than 40 publications. I think this probably very soon we're going to cross the 50 publication mark. And you can find most of them already translated into English on this website. I'm also going to share my slides, of course, afterwards with you, so you can access the publications as well if you need. Last part, basically, or last body that I presented in the beginning is the Hydrogen Coordination Office. This is where I work in. And this is basically, you see here the logo, it's called Leitstelle Wasserstoff in Germany. That means this is the Hydrogen Coordination Office in German. And how is it consisted? It is based on employees coming from 4 organizations. You see those organizations here. I personally come here from the GIZ, as Prasadini presented me in the beginning. But the money basically, or my basic, if you want to say my salary, is paid by the ministries. So, or by one ministry. So each of those ministries that we saw before basically is paying one organization to send one employee or several employees to this project team in the Hydrogen Coordination Office. By this, we get some sort of like a neutral position between those ministries, so we can help to negotiate and balance, let's say, the processes between the ministries and also between the ministries and the Hydrogen Council. So this gives us a neutral position, and by this we can work or take the role as a facilitator in the implementation process. So that was the first question, right? We answered the first question, who needs to be engaged? Now I want to take a look at the second and the third questions, which was what are the common goals of the strategy and how are they measured? And I want to show you this by the process that we made so far of the monitoring of the strategy. So if you take a look at the strategy from 2020, I said this before, this is the original document. And in the strategy document, there was an action plan included that said those are the 38 measures the German government wants to implement in the first place. What was missing in the strategy, though, was what are the strategic goals behind that we want to achieve? So this was a progress that we've done in, let's say, 1 or 2 years between the Hydrogen Coordination Office and the ministries. And together we basically published 7 strategic goals in the progress report on the implementation of the hydrogen strategy in June 2022. So the idea was to align basically those 38 measures with 7 strategic goals that need to be implemented or need to be reached for the successful implementation of the hydrogen economy. So now we're coming to the part of measuring those goals. And for this, we are working still, I have to admit, on indicators and target values. Why still? We already had indicators and target values for those 7 strategic goals. But as I said before, there was an update of the strategy 1 year later. So by this, we basically we were kind of forced, you could say, to review the goals, the indicators and the target values. And because of this, we are still in this process of finalizing the indicators and the target values. Nevertheless, we will see this year the first full monitoring report. We had a tender process going on last year. We have now contracted a consortium, and they are going to elaborate basically, or they are about to elaborate a monitoring report that is now visualizing how far have we gone ahead already in the implementation process of the strategies. So now bringing together basically the theoretical model I presented in the beginning and the German strategy, coming back to my 3 questions, who needs to be engaged? First question, there are stakeholders that are clearly defined in the strategy. I mentioned the Hydrogen Council, and also there's a stakeholder in exchange, you could say, within the government. And so this has been taken care of. We can check that. Second check we can make is, are the common goals? They are defined now, and it's more or less clear what we want to achieve and where you need to work towards to, right? And the last one, I marked it here in green. One could also argue that it's not yet done, so it might be actually more yellowish, but bear with me here. I marked it basically and said, okay, there will be a monitoring report. It will be published this year. We don't know yet the exact date, but I guess end of September, beginning of October this year. And we're going to see the first monitoring report on the German strategy. And this will create transparency over the progress that we have done so far. So all 3 questions are basically answered positively. Final part of the presentation, I would like to share some personal lessons learned from the implementation process. I've now been on this team for 3 years. And what I've seen basically, and I want to also share with everybody, is that I see it's very key to have a close and direct communication between the ministries that are involved in the strategy process. And there is one leading ministry within the, let's say, there's kind of like a pyramid of hierarchies in the interministerial negotiations. How is that done in Germany? So for instance, the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, which is also responsible for energy issues in Germany, they take a leading role within the inner circle. So within the inner circle, there is actually another level of hierarchy, you could say. And the Ministry of Energy is, from my perspective, the natural ministry to take the lead within other ministries and let's say set certain guidelines. They make proposals, they make suggestions how to move forward. In the other ministries, basically, they follow. They get to vote, of course. They get to share their opinion and also negotiate with the other ministries, of course. And there is no, let's say, there's no hierarchy of votes, you could say, that one ministry can overrule the others, but there is one that basically guides the way and takes the major responsibility for the implementation. This is definitely something that helps a lot, because if not, then everybody looks a little bit around and asks, like, yeah, who is taking the lead? Who is guiding us through the implementation process? Second lessons learned that I had is there needs to be a process basically of alignment between political and strategic goals for the implementation. What do I mean by this? Is like, if you see here on the right hand side, we developed this graphic in the progress report on the implementation. And there are political goals that go further beyond the hydrogen world or the energy sector. For instance, in Germany, there is the political goal to be climate neutral in 2045. So this has an impact, of course, on the energy sector, but also on the agriculture sector, you could say. And so the strategic goal is basically for the hydrogen strategy is how to contribute to the political goal. And there are measures and actions to be taken to reach the strategic goal, but there should be always an alignment between political level, strategic level, and the measures and activities to be implemented. So there should be like a certain, let's say, streamlining or alignment process here. And this takes time, and this takes a lot of time, and it causes sometimes headaches, I have to admit, and it's not easy, to be very honest. But making this effort and aligning and matching basically those goals and the measures and the impact that you want to reach, it makes the process afterwards so much smoother and easier when you have done this in the first place. Setting up a monitoring system is not just optional, but it's actually, for me, it's like absolutely mandatory. I know that several strategy documents in the world have, let's say, they're more like a shiny glory document. You've seen that the neighboring country has a hydrogen strategy in place, and you want also one. So you go and you write down what you want to achieve. You want to install X amount of gigawatts of electrolyzers, and you want to use so many hydrogen trucks, etc., etc. But having those goals is definitely useful. But on the other side, you need to measure the progress, and this is done by a monitoring system. So making up your mind on how to monitor the progress that you do is absolutely key as well. Otherwise, it's being like on a ship in the Pacific Ocean or somewhere, you don't see the shore and you don't have a navigation system. You don't know where to go actually. So you need to know what I've done so far in the past, what were the results that I have created by this, and this is now how I want to move further along, how I want to reach my goals that I have set in the past. Last lessons learned that I want to share today with you is consider sufficient resources in the background for the organization and the implementation progress. Things always take longer than expected in the beginning. And I took now that the picture of us, of the Hydrogen Coordination Office, here as an example. You don't need to have the exact same structure, definitely not. Every country needs to find their own way to basically have this kind of resources for the support units for the implementation progress. That can be also inside the ministries, for instance. But I want to emphasize here that in Germany there are 8 full-time equivalents supporting the implementation of the strategy. One might argue that's a little bit too much. You could, definitely talk about this, but what I want to stress out is it's not the number itself, but it's that there are resources foreseen, and there needs to be done in the background that takes a lot of time, and which is sometimes it takes time away from experts, from politicians. I need to take care of other things. So please consider to have sufficient resources and personnel basically to support the implementation progress, because otherwise you're going to struggle and you're going to fall behind your own goals that you've set. That's it for the moment. I'm happy to engage now with you in the discussion. Thank you very much for the attention. Back to you, Prasadini.
Thank you very much, Florian. Now it's time for the Q&A session. Please submit your questions in the Q&A box, or we are welcome you to raise your hands to ask any questions. There's one question in the Q&A box. It's in the chat. Shall I read it?
Please go ahead, yeah.
How will the Trump government policies affect the growth of green hydrogen in Europe?
Yeah, good question. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I have the answer. First of all, I'm not an expert on markets. As I said, I'm working more on the let's say public sector side towards with the ministries, etc. Yet we see, of course, there is what I can see from what I can share with you is basically in the past, the Biden government with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, they caused in Germany at least lots of trouble because they wanted to invest a lot of money in green electrons, right? They wanted to raise the renewable energy production, and by this you could also raise the potential hydrogen production, also the blue hydrogen production, of course, but also the green one. And so this caused headaches here in Germany because we saw like that the market basically shifted from Europe to the US. Actually, now with Donald Trump forcing the fossil industry now, and with this famous phrase now, drill baby drill, and looking for more gas, I think let's say the hydrogen economy will not, let's say, prosper in the US, and it's my guess, and for now in the next years. But I definitely see that the competition of hydrogen with natural gas will be even harder in the future, because if there is more gas on the market, gas prices will fall probably, and by this the alternative of using hydrogen as a molecule for, let's say, the steel sector, right, to decarbonize the steel sector, versus using natural gas in a direct reduction facility of steel. Yeah, the companies are in a global competition, especially the German ones are now struggling, and they probably will calculate twice now if they're going to use hydrogen or if they're going to use natural gas. And I think this will have definitely an effect as well. And I'm not so sure if that's going to be a positive one that we've seen so far.
There's another question. What is the 3 major challenges in implementing the strategies? How do Germany facilitate the collaboration among stakeholders in public and private and academia?
Okay, I think there are 2 questions. So I start with the first one. What are the 3 major challenges? I think the first one is what I hear from the market is getting demand, basically concrete demand signals, meaning that who is purchasing, who is off-taking the hydrogen in the end. And I already tackled this challenge already in my answer before, right? So let's say for the German market and also the European one, we are in a global competition against the US, China, also India, when it comes, for instance, to the steel sector, right? So who is going to be producing steel in the long run? And so if we use a costly energy carrier like hydrogen for the production of green steel, right? The question is, who is going to purchase the green steel, which is more costly than, let's say, the gray steel or even the black steel, if you want to say so, from other countries. So this delay in demand causes troubles for projects, because they can't go to the bank and finance their projects, the green hydrogen projects, because they're lacking the offtake. And I think this is the main challenge at the moment. Second challenge, I would say, is the over-regulation. That's also I hear from the market as well. Having those strict regulation in the EU on the Renewable Energy Directive and the delegated acts causes troubles for companies to produce basically green hydrogen that is accountable for GHG reduction certificates. So this is also a challenge. And the last one, I would say, yeah, I have to stay in always 2. I'm sorry, but let's continue with the second part of the question, which was how do we facilitate collaboration between stakeholders As I said, the Hydrogen Council basically is a perfect example for this, I would say. It consists of 26 members, as I said. There are members from, or experts from the industry, from the academia and NGOs, and they come together and they discuss and they move forward they discuss matters of the implementation. And by this, we kind of represent basically all major stakeholder groups that we have in the whole society in this council. Plus, there is another level of engagement between let's say, the public sector. I presented you the federal level, right? But there's also a process of stakeholder engagement, you could say, between the federal level in Germany and the state level. So in Germany, we are a federal country. So the federal states in Germany get a lot of vote also on how to implement hydrogen and the hydrogen economy. So there is also a level between, let's say, the national level, the federal level, and the federal states, and there is also a negotiation between those two.
Okay, someone is raising his hand. Wayfair, please, you can speak now. Yeah, then I will.
I think the question is in the chat, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. I am from Morocco, and I would like to have your opinion about the strategy of implementation of green hydrogen.
I have to admit, I don't understand perfectly on let's say what you want to hear from my opinion on the implementation of green hydrogen in Germany or on a global level. I didn't catch that. Can you specify maybe? Sorry. And in the meantime, we could maybe take another question. Sorry.
Hydrogen to natural gas competition. What could be key areas of focus to develop an implementable national roadmap?
Depends a little bit on the national context, of course. I mean, like I can speak now better, I guess, for the German and European context than for the local context of you. Yet in Europe, we have the so-called ETS, right? The emission trade system, where you need to pay, or you could say, a certain form of tax if you emit GHG emissions for your processes. The thing is that if you take a look at natural gas, it's only basically taken into account downstream wise. So when you apply basically natural gas in your processes. So for instance, as I said before, you're a steel company, you're having a direct reduction facility, you use natural gas to decarbonize basically, or to as a reduction of, in English, I'm missing the words now, to basically reduce the iron ore to steel, right? And in this process, you emit basically GHG emissions, and then you have to pay for the certificates. Yet, what the crucial part is actually, if you take a look on natural gas, is how when you explore and when you drill and when you basically, so upstream wise, when you produce the natural gas and transport it also to the facilities where you use it, where you apply it, and in between there is also leakages and in the production as well, and methane has a much higher GHG potential than or global warming potential than CO2. So this is actually something that's not yet considered in the emission trade system. And if you would include this, the price for natural gas would raise a lot, much more, and then you basically would be able to make green hydrogen easier compatible or easier competitive with a natural gas, because the price difference basically shrinks. Yet, if you only do this in Europe, then the prices for energy will only rise, and then you have again the question of global competition. We try to tackle this with the so-called CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. But I mean, like the idea is, and I said in the very beginning of my presentation, is this is a global challenge. There's a global challenge for climate change. Only taking measures in Europe won't help. So there needs to be, let's say, a global effort taking place, and only making national measures here won't help us actually with the price difference between natural gas and green hydrogen.
And also there's another question. How does governance plays a key role in the development and expansion of the hydrogen economy?
Yeah, I tried to highlight this in the presentation. The hydrogen has a huge impact on different aspects of our life. It starts with the production of hydrogen, so you need to build wind farms and PV facilities, etc. It goes on with electrolyzer sites. You need to use water from somewhere to produce green hydrogen. Then you need to build pipelines or ship corridors, for instance, to transport the hydrogen. Then you need the application facilities, etc. So the whole value chain of hydrogen has such a huge impact on our lives. And this is why you need to have a strategy in place that basically takes into account the whole vision basically of the future energy system and what is the role of hydrogen in the future energy system. It doesn't make any sense to only focus on hydrogen. You should think of like, what is the future energy, or what I would wish for my future energy system in the country to look like. And once you have this in mind, you can find a role for hydrogen within and how to get there, basically. This is the governance structure. The governance structure helps you basically to coordinate all those stakeholders that need to be involved in the transition phase, basically from today to the future energy system. And this is why I think governance is one of the most underrated parts of hydrogen strategy actually in the world, because it helps you to know who do I need to talk to, who is responsible, and who is taking basically action to lead the transition.
So there's another question. What are the key factors should consider when initializing mass production, and about policy creating for Asian countries?
Yeah, I mean, like Asian countries, to be honest, I don't know how many there are, but I guess they're more than 50 or maybe more than 80. So it's very difficult to make now general rule of thumb for all those countries. I mean, like they're in a different stage as well. GIZ is working in several ones, but it's say now on a general phase, I try to see also in your following up question, but let's say between the industrialized countries and the countries that are still like in emerging markets. So for me, I think I used to work in Chile, which is of course in South America, but I guess it's also an emerging market, which is kind of comparable to some, I would say, Asian countries. Is there is a chance actually, because I see several countries that are still now in this. I see a chance for leapfrogging, that then to pass a certain transition phase and move directly towards a sustainable energy system in the future, and not build up a whole fossil empire basically within your countries. Especially Germany needs to import a lot of natural gas from other countries for the current economy, but there could be a chance, or I think I see a chance for those countries to actually jump directly to a sustainable future. And for me, it's key, and everything starts with, when you come to a technical perspective, I mean, for me, it's key to have sufficient renewable energy in place. So you need to make up your mind, as I said before, how should my future energy system of my country look like, and how can I get the most renewable energy in place? I'm not talking about renewable electricity. I'm talking about renewable energy. That means what about the industry sector and what about the transport sector? I mean, like power sector to decarbonize, it's, I would say, easy. We know how to do this. We have PV, we have wind farms, we have now this battery revolution coming up. But for the other sectors, you need to basically, we call this Sektorkopplung in Germany. There's no good translation to English, but I would say power to X is basically the key word here. How to transit basically the new renewable electricity towards others. And so for me, policy instruments that foster the ramp up of renewable electricity basically is the first step. Second step should be for me how to, if you have in place coal-fired power plants, because I mean, each kilowatt hours of green electricity that replaces a 1 kilowatt hour of coal-fired power plants has a much more positive impact on the global climate than transferring it into hydrogen. So first make the transition in the power sector complete, then think about the power to X solutions for the other sectors, and then see like what are actually the sectors that can be electrified. I mean, like using electricity for transport, for cars, etc. We see now that this is probably the way to go. Hydrogen cars are not effective enough, and they have a cost and disadvantage. So look at only the hard to abate sectors. I mentioned steel. I mentioned there are others like fertilizers, and there's long distance transport that probably we won't make the transition there without green molecules. So focus on them, and then focus on the policy instruments that foster the transition there. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry if it was a little bit too much, but it's very hard to boil it down basically to a concrete answer.
Okay, there's another question. How are safety and risk management framework requirements implemented? Are there national safety standards, regulations developed and rolled out for implementation in hydrogen projects?
Yes, of course. I mean, like, but with all the fuss that we made about hydrogen in the last couple of years, one should keep in mind that hydrogen in certain processes has been in place for decades. It's not something new that just falls from the sky, and we found it basically 5 years ago, and we realized, oh, we have hydrogen as a molecule to use. There are chemistry plants worldwide that use hydrogen at the moment. There are processes to produce it, of course, via the natural gas route, etc. So for those companies that have been using hydrogen over decades, there are safety standards, and those can be directly applied for green hydrogen as well. So you find this, there's a lot of things going on, and I think there are ISO norms and ISO standards that you can use. And of course, now we need to rethink what are, let's say, safety standards if we need to apply for, let's say, electrolyzers. So for instance, Germany wants to ramp up 10 gigawatts of electrolyzers until 2030. That means it's different to have, let's say, a rooftop solar PV installation and have an electrolyzer in a neighborhood where people live. I mean, like a rooftop PV has no, let's say, hazard to the people, but an electrolyzer with the potential explosive of hydrogen is a hazard for people living next door. So we need to have higher safety standards now, but those have been implemented or are on the way. And another example that I can make for you is there is an institution in Germany that tested basically how to say this in English, reconvert natural gas pipelines for hydrogen. So we have there's a gas network in Germany for natural gas, and they tested if this natural gas network can actually be used for hydrogen, and major parts can be actually used. So they made very high safety tests for those pipelines, and they come to the conclusion that it's possible. So there are definitely different things going on. It depends a little bit what part of the value chain you want to dive into deeper. I have to say, I can only give you now a general answer at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Florian, for this insightful and engaging session. On behalf of the Greenstat Hydrogen in Sri Lanka, I'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing your extensive expertise with us today. Your deep insights into governance frameworks and the implementation of hydrogen strategies have been incredibly valuable. I'd also like to thank all our participants for joining us today. To everyone who attended, we hope this session have provided you with valuable insights and actionable ideas. As we wrap up, please remember that the recording of this webinar will be shared with all registrants in the coming weeks. Once again, thank you, Florian, and thank you all for being a part of this conversation. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for the questions. It was very engaging, or it was nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.